How do you survive your first day alive when you are born in open ocean with no parent, no lesson, and the single most dangerous animal in the entire sea is a bigger version of you? Most of the young born this afternoon will not survive it. Most will be dead within a month, torn apart by sharks, swallowed whole by their own kind, or simply starved. Because no adult is ever coming back to feed them. This is the one that lived 80 million years ago. The middle of North America was not land at all, but a warm, shallow sea that split the continent in two, running from the Arctic down to the Gulf, and the place we now call Texas sat somewhere near the bottom of it, under 100 meters of blue water swarming with things that wanted to eat each other. Into that water, a female the length of a school bus gives birth, not on a beach, not in a nest, but mid-ocean, in open water, because her kind never returned to land to lay eggs, and never built anything, and the pup slides out alive and already swimming, roughly a meter long, which is about the height of a 10-year-old child, and completely, permanently alone from its first breath. There is no parent waiting. There is no lesson. There is only the water, and everything in it. For the first few weeks this animal is not a monster at all, it is prey, small enough that a large fish could take it, and a shark certainly could. And its single advantage is that it was born knowing exactly how to hunt. So within hours it is already snapping at anything smaller than itself. Tiny fish, squid, whatever drifts past its jaws, eating constantly because everything out here is either food or a threat, and it has no way of telling which until it is close. And here is the part that should keep you up at night. The most dangerous thing in this pup's world is not the sharks. It is the adults of its own species. We know this because the fossils tell on them. In Kansas, paleontologists opened up the rib cage of a large Tylosaurus and found, packed inside where its stomach had been, the crushed remains of a smaller mosasaur. And there is no gentle way to read that, because a skull that dense is a terrible thing to swallow by accident. You do not choke down another predator's head while fishing for cod. You do it on purpose, in a fight, or in a hunt. Which means, every time our young animal sees a bigger shadow of its own shape sliding through the blue, it has to assume that shadow wants to eat it. Family is not safety here. Family is the apex threat. So it grows fast, because growing is the only defense it has, and it spends its first year doing almost nothing but hunting and hiding and getting larger, moving up through the food chain one mouthful at a time, from squid to small fish to fish that fight back. And somewhere in those early months, it makes its first real kill, the kind that matters, the kind where the prey is big enough that losing the fight means dying. We cannot watch that moment, but we can reconstruct the world it happened in, because this sea has been mapped bone by bone, and it was not empty. Sharks patrolled the middle water. Long-necked plesiosaurs swept the shallows for fish. Giant clams the size of car tires paved the seafloor. And above all of it, other mosasaurs, some of them the same species, some of them the same family, all of them hungry. To survive here past its first year, the animal had to win small fights over and over, and every scar it carried was a fight it had barely won. By the time it is a few years old, it has crossed an invisible line, the line where it stops being something's meal and starts being the reason other things hide. Now watch what it becomes. By its full size, this animal stretches around 43 feet, or 13 meters, longer than a city bus with a car parked behind it, and it is built along its whole length for one job, which is killing large things in open water. The tail is a deep flattened blade that drives it forward in short, brutal bursts. The jaws are long and lined with cone-shaped teeth for gripping, and, in this particular animal, the newest and strangest of its kind, those teeth carry fine serrations down the edge, like a row of tiny steak knives, which is not something you need for slippery fish. It is something you evolve when you intend to cut through prey that is big enough to fight back. And out in front, past the teeth, the snout ends in a hard, rounded ram of solid bone, blunt as a battering post, which it uses exactly the way that sounds, driving headfirst into the side of another animal to stun it before the jaws even open. Picture that for a second. A 13-meter predator that hits you with its face first and bites you second. By now nothing in this sea is safe from it, and we do not have to guess what it ate, because we have found it still inside them, preserved in the guts of Tylosaurus. Scientists have pulled bony fish, sharks, the long-necked plesiosaurs that everyone imagines as the gentle giants of these waters, diving seabirds called hesperornis that made the mistake of swimming, and, again, other mosasaurs. This animal ate the sharks that would have eaten it as a pup. It ate the plesiosaurs that shared its water. It ate its own relatives. In a sea absolutely packed with monsters, it had climbed to the one position where the only thing left to fear was a bigger version of itself. And at 43 feet, there were not many of those. And this is the animal, this exact species, that science almost never met at all. Because for decades it was hiding in a drawer. Here is what actually happened. And it is my favorite kind of discovery, because nobody went digging for it. The bones came out of northern Texas a long time ago, and got filed away in a museum collection under the name Tylosaurus porriger. A species we already knew, and there they sat, labeled, cataloged, wrong. Then in the 2020s a researcher named Amelia Zietlow, working through the American Museum of Natural History's Mosasaur collection, looked hard at one of these supposedly ordinary specimens, and realized the label did not fit the bones. The jaw was too powerful. The neck muscles anchored too heavily. The teeth were serrated in a way the known species were not. This was not a big example of an animal we understood. It was a different, stronger animal we had been walking past for years, and in 2026 our team gave it a name that tells you exactly how they saw it. Tylosaurus rex, the king. I love that, and I want to be honest about why. Every giant we cover on this channel usually comes to us out of the ground, dramatic and sudden. This one came out of a filing cabinet. The most powerful mosasaur, yet described, spent decades misidentified, sitting quietly in a drawer under the wrong name, which makes me wonder, genuinely, how many more of these are still in there, still labeled as something smaller, waiting for someone to look twice. But let us go back to our animal, because its story does not have a soft ending, and I am not going to pretend it does. For all its size, all its armor, all its serrated advantage, this Tylosaurus is living in the last act of an entire world, without knowing it. The warm sea, over Texas, is on a countdown. In a few million years an asteroid will end the Cretaceous, the seaways will drain, and every mosasaur on the planet king or otherwise, will vanish completely, leaving nothing behind but bones in rock that will one day be Kansas and Texas and Alabama. Our animal will not see it coming. It will live its whole violent life, hunt its sharks and its plesiosaurs, maybe fight and maybe breed and die, and its body will settle into the mud of a sea that will not exist for very much longer. And that is the strange gift it left us. Because that mud, and that death, and 80 million years of pressure, are the only reason we can stand here and describe an animal that has been gone since before there were primates, let alone people. Every monster we cover here eventually lost. The seaway closed, the lineage ended, and the oceans it ruled were handed down to whales and sharks that never grew a battering ram on their face. But this one got a small, strange second life that most of them never get. Because a scientist opened the right drawer, read the bones instead of the label, and gave the king back its name. 80 million years too late. Until next time, on Ashborne Ancestors.